June 29th, and the clock is ticking to repeal and replace Obamacare. Senate Republicans now being told to come up with a health care plan by tomorrow.
Obamacare is a bus going over a cliff. The Democrats are saying stay on board.
We are live in Washington as President Trump promises a big surprise.
He was my only child. If this would have been done years ago, my son would still be here.
All right, from the White House to Capitol Hill, and consensus that the need for immigration reform is right now. How America is about to get safer today.
And stricter security, major changes coming for airline passengers with some brand new security measures. So what flyers can expect while trying to board with electronics? Fox and Friends First starts right now. We begin with President Trump, as we said, promising a big surprise in the health care package.
Yeah, we wonder what it is. This says Senate leaders now face a new deadline to come up with a revised plan by tomorrow, by Friday. Griff Jenkins live in D.C. this morning as that deadline, of course, is quickly approaching. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Rob and Heather, good morning. Don't count them out. Senate Republicans are working feverishly to forge a revised bill by tomorrow. And how's this for a teaser from the president?
Healthcare is working along very well. We could have a big surprise with a great healthcare package. We could have a great surprise.
Now, exactly what that surprise is, we don't know. Ultimately, the question is, can it bridge the gap between the senators divided over a variety of issues for a compromised agreement? By our count, 9 senators were opposing the bill yesterday, causing the vote to be delayed. One of them, Senator Rand Paul, who believes the current form does not go far enough in repealing Obamacare, has floated the idea of splitting the bill in two.
The idea has been talked about for, I think, at least a year in private, that there may be another opportunity of a separate bill that has more bipartisan support that would include some of the spending that some of the people in the Republican caucus want.
Democrats have been unified in opposing the bill, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer suggested meeting at Blair House to open the door for talks.
So, I'd make my friends on the Republican side and President Trump an offer. Let's turn over a new leaf. Let's start over. Let's abandon more tax breaks for the rich. Let's abandon cuts to Medicaid and discuss what the American people are really concerned about.
But no Blair House invitation is on the president's schedule today, and no indication that splitting the baby is the surprise the president's talking about. One thing's for sure, we'll find out soon enough. The senators leave tomorrow for recess. Guys?
Not really a big surprise if you just told everybody, Griff.
Let's see if it comes true. All right, Griff, thanks so much.
Thanks. Well, Democrats, meantime, vowing to resist the president's agenda at every step. Mark Thiessen worked as a speechwriter for George W. Bush, and he says that the president, as his predecessors, to make a better life for the American people.
Every president of the United States, whether they're liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, is doing their best to advance American values as they see them. I think Barack Obama was probably the worst president our country's ever had, but I think he woke up every morning trying to do good for the country as he saw it. Same is true of Donald Trump. Why can't we as a country just accept that these people have differing views and they're trying to do their best for the country as they see fit and advance the values of our country?
Okay, just hours from now, President Trump's travel ban is set to take effect. Enforcement beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. The ban affects visa holders and refugees from 6 primarily Muslim countries. Only travelers with close business or family ties will be allowed into the U.S. Also, those with previously approved visas will not have them revoked. The Supreme Court is set to make a final ruling, if necessary, on this ban in October.
Well, there will be blood on your hands if you don't act. That is the message to lawmakers from families who lost a loved one at the hands of an illegal immigrant. This, as the House is set to vote today on 2 bills that will make America safe again. Kevin Corke is at the White House for us, where President Trump is turning the spotlight back on immigration.
We've lost everything. He was my only child. I want some action. If this would have been done years ago, my son would still still be here.
In welcoming to the White House victims of crimes perpetrated by illegal immigrants, the president pivoted from the bruising health care battle back to one of his key campaign promises, fixing America's broken immigration system.
Your voices were heard all across the entire world, right? You better believe it. Nobody died in vain, I can tell you.
The gathering, the backdrop of the administration's bid to boost two bills that the House is expected to pass before lawmakers leave for the July 4th break. The bills are aimed separately at thwarting so-called sanctuary cities that refuse to cooperate with federal officials on immigration and imposing tougher penalties against deported criminals who re-enter the U.S. The latter, known as Kate's Law, named after Kate Steinle, who was fatally shot back in 2015 while walking with her father along San Francisco's waterfront. The suspect, Juan Francisco Lopez Sanchez, had 7 previous felony convictions and had been deported to Mexico on 5 separate occasions.
The message I'm trying to send is we got to dispel this notion that you can violate the laws of this country and hide. And that's okay.
The president's plan to enhance border security with an improved barrier between the U.S. and Mexico took yet another step forward this week as the Customs and Border Protection Agency announced that 4 to 8 companies would get contracts for prototypes that could be models for the roughly 2,000-mile southern border. Kevin Cork, Fox News.
All right, the terror suspect who stabbed an airport police officer in the neck while yelling Allahu Akbar will remain behind bars. Amor Fatoui, a Canadian citizen, did not seek bond since an immigration hold would keep him from leaving jail anyways. Fatoui reportedly yelled about Syria and Iraq as he stabbed Officer Jeff Neville, who is now recovering and thankfully is out of the hospital.
Well, hours from now, President Trump will meet with South Korean President Moon Jae-in at the White House for the first time in person. The main goal is to get North Korea to abandon the nuclear and missile programs that have rapidly expanded under that country's supreme leader, Kim Jong-un.
That previous approaches have not worked. And so the definition of insanity would be to continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. So the president has directed us to not do that and to prepare a range of options, including a military option, which nobody wants to take.
The two leaders have very different ideas about how to calm rising tensions. South Korea has called for economic cooperation, while the Trump administration has suggested tougher sanctions and military pressure. Meanwhile, Congress getting ready to ban most travel to that rogue nation. This coming after the tragic death, of course, of American student Otto Warmbier. 2 congressmen on both sides of the aisle proposing what they're calling Otto's Law. If passed, Americans will have to apply for a Treasury Department license to visit North Korea. Warmbier died just days after returning to the U.S. with severe brain damage. North Korea has denied any abuse.
While you were sleeping, lawmakers were making major moves to rebuild our military and keep our soldiers safe overseas. The House panel approving the nearly $700 billion defense policy bill. The committee's version of the National Defense Authorization Act passing 60-1 and seeks to beef up our armed forces with advanced weapons. It now heads to the full vote, the full House for a vote, I should say.
Well, the Canadian sniper we told you about who set a world record by hitting an ISIS fighter from 2.2 miles away prevented a potential ISIS attack. A Canadian newspaper reports that the brutal terror group was preparing a bloodbath targeting an Iraqi military unit. But the single gunshot from 11,000 feet away sent the rest of the terrorists running for cover. And then there's this. You have to see this video. Incredible moment of a female Kurdish ISIS fighter showing no fear as a bullet misses her head by just inches. Did you see what happens there? The bullet hitting a wall inches from her face during an ISIS shootout in Raqqa City. Just moments later, she smiles, poking her tongue out and laughing.
That is amazing.
Good for her, though.
Yeah. All right, President Trump vowing to make America safe again, demanding airports around the world raise the bar when it comes to security.
Yeah, the mission protecting nearly 200 million passengers that fly in and out of the U.S. each year. Marianne Rafferty in Los Angeles with some new changes.
Good morning. Tighten security or we'll do it for you. That's the message from the Trump administration to airports around the world. The top boss of Homeland Security, John Kelly, raising the alarm about flights heading into the U.S., calling them the crown jewel target for terrorists. The White House revealing what they call a web of threats and is rolling out strict new requirements.
Our enemies are constantly working to find new methods for disguising explosives, recruiting insiders, and hijacking aircraft. We must put in place new measures across the board. Inaction is not an option.
The new security measures include stricter passenger vetting, also explosives detection, including more bomb-sniffing dogs, and rooting out insider threats to airlines. It affects every flight, every airline coming into the U.S. We're talking 280 airports, 180 airlines, 2,000 flights, and 325 passengers a day. Travelers mixed about the new steps meant to keep America and Americans safe.
If it makes it safer, it makes it safer.
I don't think that's necessary, because there are so many rules already.
If it's necessary, it is necessary.
Now, right now, the electronics ban affects 10 cities and 8 countries, but could be expanded to other airports and airlines worldwide who fail to follow the new rules, or even from flying directly into the U.S. The new global standard, seen and unseen, will be phased out within the coming weeks and months. Back to you.
All right, Marianne, thank you so much. And a Fox News alert, Arizona now under a state of emergency. 40 major wildfires blamed for burning more than 21,000 acres, forcing thousands of people to leave everything behind. Strong winds, very high temperatures. It's been so hot in the Southwest, fueling this raging inferno in the Prescott National Forest you can see behind me in Goodwin. Tanker pilots now working around the clock trying to get the fire under control. This is the same area that 19 firefighters were killed fighting a forest fire 4 years ago. All right, more extreme weather now. Severe storms moving through the Midwest. Multiple tornadoes ripping through Iowa and Wisconsin. Just outside of Cedar Rapids, one woman hurt after her home collapsed on top of her and trapped her inside. This tornado that you saw there causing significant damage in Pierce County, Wisconsin. Clearly some video issues there, as the president has seen. Aerials right here showing the path of destruction of that twister with downed trees, damaged houses, an overturned truck you can see there in the yard, and the worst not over yet. Forecasters predicting another possible new round of tornadoes coming today.
Some terrifying moments for a group of swimmers. Sharks thrashing around just feet from a group of people wading off the coast of Florida. A family visiting from Arkansas wading into this shallow water as the sharks approached, and they captured this video for you. Officials say that the sharks were about 5 to 7 feet long. So those weren't just, sand sharks, were they?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
not too big, but it's big enough to scare you. Absolutely, yeah. All right, Tim Tebow has a habit of making a big splash in his debuts, and the newest St. Lucie Met is the name of the team, just delivered again.
It's out of there. Tim Tebow hitting a home run in the second game of the Mets doubleheader and collected 3 hits overall at First Data Field. It was his first game with the team after being promoted. We told you about his promotion from the Columbia Fireflies and his 4th home run this season.
We're going to see him in the big leagues
start.
before too long,
Probably
I suspect. Yeah. All right. 12 minutes after the hour, and flag on fire. Shocking video here shows one man igniting Old Glory up in flames. We'll talk about that.
People hate the media. I'm in favor of replacing Jim Acosta with Elmo at the White House press conference.
CNN's credibility crisis getting bigger. Why the network's president could potentially be on the chopping block.
All right, the president of CNN in the crosshairs of a possible $85 billion merger. The New York Post reporting if AT&T buys CNN's parent company, Time Warner, Jeff Zucker's future is unknown. Conservative author Mark Stein telling Tucker Carlson the network is in a credibility crisis.
They're actually selling a bag that has all the packaging of potato chips, and there are no potato chips inside. That's the problem with the Russia story. They went bananas over that Malaysian plane that disappeared a couple of years ago, but at least there was a Malaysian plane that was here 1 minute and wasn't there the next. Here, there actually is no Malaysian plane, and they're covering it.
Covenant with much improved ratings as well, which is a scary thought. The Post also reporting AT&T looking to neutralize CNN if that purchase goes through. All right, and as CNN is reeling in that fake news mess of a retracted Russian collusion story that we've been talking about all week, Fox News radio host Todd Starnes says the network faces an uphill battle towards regaining their credibility. He joins us live now with his 1-minute commentary. Hey, Todd.
Hey, good morning, Rob. You know, CNN has secured its place in broadcast journalism as America's fake news leader. Now, first, there was that business about James Comey, who was going to testify President Trump was under investigation. Fake. Then they alleged the president snubbed Congressman Steve Scalise in the hospital. Double fake. Then they reported only Democrats gathered to pray before the congressional baseball game. Triple dog fake. And don't even get me started on that Trump-Russia collusion story, the one they had to retract and delete. Fakety fake, fake, fake. 3 network journalists either got fired or quit, depending on who you believe. CNN said the fake story violated their editorial standards. Now, what's happening at CNN should outrage every American citizen. They have turned their newsroom into a political war room. And like many other mainstream media organizations, they will stop at nothing to bring down the man who promised to make America great again. You know, the most shocking part of this story is that CNN actually has editorial standards. Back to you.
All right. Todd, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Todd. Well, more teachers moving to the head of the class when it comes to learning how to use a gun. With mass shootings seemingly becoming more common in the classroom, unfortunately, teachers are learning how to fire grade A shots and starting to carry weapons. Nearly 1/3 of the country, 18 states, allow adults to carry a loaded gun on school grounds with certain permissions. Well, 2 Ohio teens sentenced to jail and a book report. That's their sentence for accidentally shooting someone in the face. Jonas War and Kyle Bodiger are facing 37 days in jail for shooting a man while at target practice. But the judge, in order to teach them about the proper use of a weapon, is ordering them both to read a book about World War II or the Vietnam War and then write a 5-page report.
That's interesting. All right, 19 minutes after the hour, a mistake. Why Dunkin' Donuts is getting called out for one of their breakfast sandwiches this morning. That's a play on words.
Yeah.
Can you figure it out?
Play on words there. So who is who? Ted Cruz just found his twin, and the internet loves it. They look,
pretty close. All right, a Fox Business Alert this morning. Hundreds of thousands of vehicles getting pulled off the road because they could shut off while you were driving. Wow.
And Tracy Crosco from our sister network Fox Business here with what you definitely need to know before you leave the house this morning if you have one of those cars.
Right. Absolutely. Good morning, guys. Now, several recalls from Ford to tell you about. The first one affects more than 400,000 vehicles. It's for all of the 2015 to 2017 Ford Transit vans or bus vehicles. Ford says the drive shaft could become separated and result in a loss of power while driving or unintended movement while in park. Thankfully, no accidents or injuries to report because of that recall. Ford also issued a recall for 4 kinds of police interceptor utility vehicles to repair second-row seat attachment studs. And lastly, for the Ford Escape vehicles, that recall is to replace driver knee airbag modules. Yeah.
All right. We're talking about Southwest Airlines now pulling back on some flights.
Yep. Southwest has decided to cut back on a number of flights it offers to Cuba. The decision comes just a few weeks after the president's new policy, which will crack down on Americans traveling there. Southwest is ending service to Varadero and Santa Clara after the summer, and effective September 5th, Southwest will only be offering flights to Cuba's capital, Havana. Southwest says there's no, quote, clear path to sustainability servicing these markets.
I think some other airlines have already done that as well, right?
I think so, yes.
All right, so Dunkin' Donuts under fire for a mistake.
Missed steak. Yes, that's right. It's missing the steak. Now, a New York woman is suing Dunkin' Donuts because her Angus steak and egg sandwich was missing one ingredient, the steak. She claims the sandwich doesn't have any, but instead is full of minced meat, which is a misrepresentation of the sandwich's advertisement. The lawsuit doesn't say how much she's suing for. Now, we've all had that happen where you order something and it does not look like the picture.
Right.
Does anybody think you're getting an Angus steak from Dunkin' Donuts for $3?
So.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Not for $3, no.
I guess they're selling it that way. I don't know. I have to check that one out. All right, Tracy, thanks so much.
Thanks, Tracy. A little too much time on her hands, though, I think, the one filing the lawsuit. Well, the time now is about 25 minutes after the top of the hour. And deadly bus shootout. Have you seen this shocking footage? Giving a brand new view of a police-involved shooting as the gunman opens fire and bystanders run for their lives.
And I'm Rob Schmidt. It is 5:30 here on the East Coast. President Trump promising a big surprise on health care.
This as Senate leaders now face a new deadline to come up with a revised plan by tomorrow. Griff Jenkins is live for us in Washington, D.C. as that deadline quickly approaches, to say the least, Griff.
Hey, Heather and Rob, good morning. Just when you thought the suspense and the healthcare drama couldn't get bigger, President Trump dropped this.
Healthcare is working along very well. We could have a big surprise with a great healthcare package. You're going to have a great surprise.
But the clock is ticking. Republican senators say they're working double time to come up with a revised bill. And exactly what that surprise is, the president's referring to, we don't know. Ultimately, the question is, can it bridge the gap between the 9 senators opposing the bill? That, of course, caused the vote to be delayed. One of those holdouts, Senator Rand Paul, floated the idea of splitting the bill in 2.
The idea has been talked about for, I think, at least a year in private that there may be another opportunity of a separate bill that has more bipartisan support that would include some of the spending that some of the people in the Republican caucus want.
Democrats have been united in opposing the bill, but now Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is suggesting a meeting at Blair House to start talking.
I challenge the president. Invite us all to Blair House. Let's see what we can come up with. Let's try. We have an opportunity to go back to the drawing board.
But the president says Democrats are not serious about working together, and no Blair House meeting is on the schedule. One thing is for sure, guys, whatever that surprise President Trump's referring to, we'll find out soon enough. It's Thursday. Deadline's tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be very soon. Griff, thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right, Democrats hoping that the Republicans will fail in their push to repeal and replace Obamacare. But as Town Hall's Guy Benson says, in essence, they are rooting against their own constituents.
One of the best points that he's made over and over again, though, during this debate is an important one. Obamacare is failing. It doesn't matter what the favorability ratings are. I see in our polling 61% of Americans still want to see it fully or partially repealed. It is falling apart at the seams and getting worse and will continue to get worse. So even if there's a big outcry over the Senate bill and it doesn't go anywhere, hooray, we're stuck with a falling apart individual market. That doesn't change. What comes next?
Well, a former Bush administration official praising the president. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice saying that President Trump has been acting in the best interest of the country. Rice specifically referring to the president's strong action after the Syrian chemical attack.
I believe every president of the United States stands for our values, and ultimately you see presidents begin to react in that way. You heard President Trump say, for instance, after the Syrian chemical attack, we can't let that stand. What he was saying was the president of the United States can't let that stand.
Rice also saying that it's important to remember that it is still early in the Trump administration.
All right, President Trump getting a head start on 2020 with his first re-election fundraiser last night at the Trump Hotel in Washington, D.C. About 300 people showed up, bringing in about $10 million in just one night. The president filed his re-election paperwork as soon as he was inaugurated, getting a very early start. And the president will head overseas to celebrate Bastille Day with French President Emmanuel Macron. The White House confirming the president has accepted Macron's Trump's invitation for July 14th, here in about 2 weeks. It comes after the two spoke on the phone about the need for a joint response to the Syria chemical attack, and if there is going to be potentially more Syrian chemical attacks. They're also expected to discuss the Paris Climate Accord. President Trump has made it known he would like to negotiate a new deal on that accord. Heather.
Thank you, Rob. Well, officials are investigating a violent blast. This happened at a dormitory in Kentucky. The explosion completely gutting the ground floor, causing minor damage to the second floor. You can see some of the damage there. This was an unused building at Murray State University. Officials believe that the gas leak likely caused it. One employee was hospitalized but is expected to be okay, so that's good. And some newly released footage. This is from inside a bus. Look at the gentleman right there. It shows the terrifying moment that a Baltimore man opens fire at police officers. A bus surveillance camera showing the moment that the suspect walks to the back of the bus and pulls out two weapons, with passengers fleeing in fear. Well, an officer arrives on the scene and begins a shootout with the man, who was eventually shot and killed. Terrifying.
All right, well, an upsetting story here. Our symbol of freedom going up in flames. Police in Richmond, Virginia, trying to find the suspect seen setting an American flag on fire. Surveillance of a very despicable act, igniting a lot of outrage for a lot of people that are proud of this country. The homeowner says this is more than just vandalism. He's calling it terrorism, demanding the man is caught, saying that the man has zero regard for what that flag stands for. All right, the Windy City turning public art into an apparent statement against President Trump. Chicago using taxpayer dollars to install this sign that says "real fake" right there. It's a sculpture right in front of the Trump Tower in Chicago. And get this, the city says it's not a political statement. Chicago also considering a sculpture of flying pigs to block out the Trump name on his own tower. There you go.
What about this? No more rough mornings thanks to hangovers. Yep, that is the slogan of a new self-proclaimed hangover cure, they say. The FDA-compliant drink already has about 10,000 people on the wait list.
Yeah, you know what's in it? Whiskey. We're kidding. All right, the supplement contains an herbal compound called DHM, found in the Oriental raisin tree. It detoxifies your body by breaking down cellular inflammation, which can cause sweating, nausea, and vomiting. It'll be available for purchase on July 5th. I'll believe it when I see it.
The Oriental raisin tree. How do you discover that to begin with?
Well, yeah, it must be very, it's Asian, so they're very intelligent with that kind of stuff.
Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and your child's favorite Sesame Street character has now been turned into a propaganda puppet.
And did you find that the Syrian little girls and little boys were a lot like your friends here in America?
Yeah, they really were. It was very interesting.
Yeah, the bizarre new tactic that is being used by CNN.
Also, the Senate now working to overhaul Obamacare, and lawmakers are looking to other countries like Australia for inspiration. But is the grass really greener on the other side? Our next guest, an Australian native, has an answer to that.
And welcome back. He's the only Democrat to win a special congressional election this year. But everybody wants to know, where is he? Representative-elect Jimmy Gomez voted to represent Los Angeles earlier this month, but he hasn't shown up for work yet. Gomez saying that he wants to serve a little bit longer as California state lawmaker. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy now saying that Gomez is, quote, neglecting his job and should consider resigning. Gomez plans to be sworn in next month.
All right, CNN using a beloved children's character to attack President Trump's travel order. The network producing